1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Out there in Mandolin Land, Mike Hedding here, coming to you today with the old classic fiddle tune Salt Creek in the key of A. This is an old jam standard and is a tune that gets played faster a lot. So this is a really good tune to work on your speed, work on your accuracy of your picking, and again, work on some position shifts as we crank up the speed. I'll break down the solo for the A part and the B part note for note, and then we'll talk about some little variations you can use to play the ending slightly different, kind of just some easy ways I'll use to spice up these fiddle tunes. And I'll also break down the backup, how you play the chords to the song in kind of a bluegrass chop style. And if you're watching the preview of this lesson, you can head over to my website, MikeHeddingMusic.com, and grab the full lesson. You'll get access to watch all the videos, and you can download the tabs and the practice tracks. All right, here's Salt Creek in the key of A. All right, let's start breaking down this basic A part to Salt Creek. So we'll start by breaking down just the notes, and then I'll show you kind of some tips on how to create variations on these fiddle tunes, which is a big part of the style. All right, so let's jump into the lesson. We'll start by playing the first 9 measures, which is the first part of the A part, okay? Here we go. Do that a few times. One time really slow. Okay, so we're just going to start with a classic, pretty easy pickup. Got my first finger on the 2nd fret of the D string. On beat 2, we're going to play that note. And on beat 3, we're going to play it actually twice in a row. So count beat 1, 1, and then we're going to play 2, 3, and then the 4th fret. We're basically just trying to get up to this open A string. So is kind of like what our most basic melody would be. And the only difference there is after we do that, walk it up, we're going to do kind of a classic mandolin or fiddle move where we slide from 4 to 7, which is where that note becomes the same, if you're in tune, hopefully. And we're going to do down, up picking. So I'm doing down, up, down, up, down. So I got 1. Just keep your pick moving after you slide. 1. And then one more down, up. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2, and 3, 4, and not too hard. So again, one more time, 1. And then we're going to play a little phrase on the A string, 2 open, and then 2, 4, 5. And then play the 5th fret again. So we're going to do some down, up picking there. So try and keep your fingers down as you walk up those notes. And then a little answering phrase, 2 open on the A string, and then down to the 5th fret of the D string. You play that twice. And then one more answering phrase. So open, 2 open on the A string, 5th fret upstroke, and then down to the 2nd fret. So you have and then 2, 4, which will start it back up. That's basically like our next pickup. So one more time, 1. Really important is kind of keeping your first finger hovering over these 1st frets and your 3rd finger hovering over these 5th frets. That'll make that little, You know, if your hand is drifting back here, it's going to be a lot harder to play that. So keep your hand stretched out. A little faster. 1. And then same phrase, except we're going to start with an open A string and then slide. Just same idea, just a slight variation. And then our same run. And then 4, 5. Now here's our little ending phrase. I'll play it and then break it down. There's lots of ways you could do this little ending phrase, and we'll talk about that in the variation part, but here's a simple way. We're going to hit the open. So you do 4, 5, and then open E string, 2nd fret, 3rd fret, and then walk down. So hit this with an upstroke, and then 4, 2, open, 2, open. And then 2, 4 picks it back up. So that's the whole basic A part. Not too hard. So again, it's a common form that's repeated in a lot of fiddle tunes. We have phrase 1, phrase 2, and then phrase 1 again, and then phrase 3. So phrase 1 is, and then phrase 2 is, and then phrase 1 again, same idea, and then phrase 3, an ending phrase. Okay, so very common form to fiddle tunes that a lot of songs use. Whiskey Before Breakfast, St. Anne's Reel, a lot of songs use this phrase 1, phrase 2, phrase 1, phrase 3 format, okay? And then we're back into the A part variation, so a lot of this is going to be the same. And then right here we just did a little variation. We walk up the same way. And then walk down 5, 4. And now here's just a little riff we're going to play. So we're just taking that idea, instead of going, you know, and playing it very straight, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, you know, which is fine. That's kind of like the basic melody. What we're going to do is kind of twist those notes around and play them in a different timing than you would expect. So we're going to go, so 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So then that 2 open is happening on an on beat and then an off beat, rather than in version 1 it's always on the down beat. Now we're going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. So it just adds a nice little syncopation to the phrase. And then our same phrase. So just that little phrase in measure 12 is different. So again, we'll talk about this in the variation section, but you don't have to vary the whole song. You know, you can just vary one little measure. So that's all we're doing there. We're going. And then this is all the same. Now just a different ending lick. So I did similar idea, 4, 5, and then high E, back to the 4th fret on the A string, and then open high E again, and then 2nd fret. That's a good picking practice. Instead of just going, now we're going, and then the same run. So just that first little bit is different. That's the only thing. That's the only part you have to practice there. Alright, so that's the basic A part and the variation to the A part. So a couple little things to think about for this song is, notice how we're using that G note over an A chord. So sometimes you might call this like mixolydian, where we're using that flatted 7th note. So that might be something to practice. You could, if you want a little variation for the intro part, you could also play, you know, add that 5th fret instead, or walk up. G is normally not in the A major scale, right? And then we have, and then I would play this, and then you could do it. This would be a perfect spot to put a variation. So you could play the ending that I wrote, or you could play, and then right here, notice how we're using the G sharp instead of the G. So that works over the E chord at the end, okay? Notice how we're using the G sharp instead of the G. So that might be something that's a cool little theory thing to think about, is on that ending lick. Right here, we're using the G, right? And then if you want a variation, use the G sharp, which kind of implies the G, E, A, right? So you could go, you know, just play with that timing and just come up with a little ending part. Or, you know, all those little ending phrases will sound fine. So that'd be, again, a little ending phrase. That's a perfect spot to create a variation on these fiddle tunes. You don't need to go completely off script. You know, I think that's a comment. That was something I struggled with at first, is when I would try and take a variation or a solo, improvised solo to like a Salt Creek, I would suddenly just be off in lick land, you know, where I'm playing nothing, no part of the melody at all. I'm just playing licks. So, you know, some people like to play like that, but I like to do fragments of the melody and then a little variation, right? You know, I think that helps you. It still sound like Salt Creek, but now you're playing a variation on Salt Creek. Okay? So I would just, for the A part, and we'll talk about the B part as well, has these same little endings, but I would kind of focus your variations on those little ending phrases. You know. Any of those little, just see what you can come up with there. All right, now let's break down the B part to Salt Creek.